Have you ever wanted to try something new like drawing, coding, playing an instrument, maybe start a hobby or start a new business? But after a couple of tries, fails, you got frustrated, you lost interest and decided, this just isn't for me. Then you moved on to something else. Sure, we've all done that at some point, including myself. I can't tell you how many times I've started a project only to get frustrated, quit halfway through it, and now I've got a garage full of unfinished projects and expensive tools that are collecting dust. So why do people give up so easily? Part of the reason is because of a cognitive bias defined by what is known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. When you first start something, you tend to be a little bit overconfident in your abilities, despite your lack of knowledge. This is where you're standing at what we call the peak of Mount Stupid, or uninformed optimism. You think to yourself, well, obviously it can be done. That guy did it, so if he can do it, so can I. And you'd be right, except that all you see is that person's success. You don't see all the thousands of hours that that person put in to get good at that thing that they're doing. We only see the highlight reel and none of the bloopers. Once you dive into that thing that you want to do, you start to realize it's a little tougher than you thought. And you figure out all the work that it's going to take in order to be successful at that thing that you want to do. At this point, a lot of people get discouraged and quit. This is that stage that's called informed pessimism. Most people jump off at this point, or what we like to call the valley of despair. But then this starts the cycle all over again. You find something new that you want to do, and you're right back at the top of Mount Stupid. Got your overconfidence, lack of knowledge, you get started in something, hey man, this looks really cool, let me do this, and you get into it and figure out what it actually takes to do, and you're like, not a heck with this, I'm going to start something else. And you jump off again, and that starts a vicious cycle all over. But what if we kept going? What if you pushed past the valley of despair, kept working on that thing, kept trying, putting into practice, failing a whole bunch of times? What if you forced yourself to stick with it for 100 reps? I'm sure many of you have heard of the 100 repetitions rule when it comes to skill mastery. This is a very simplified rule of thumb when it comes to acquiring skills and getting good at them. Now, Malcolm Gladwell, in his book Outliers, outlined that it takes 10,000 hours to master any skill. And I know 10,000 hours sounds like a huge amount of time. We're looking at like 10 years probably. And you might think, 10 years? I ain't got 10 years to learn a skill. But what if you just put in 100 reps of something? If you put in that 100 reps of something, you're going to see a massive change from when you started to the time you finish. And you'll get to enjoy the improvements of your skills along the way. In my previous career, my mentor told me that if I was going to start something, I had to do it for at least 100 reps before I was allowed to quit. If after 100 repetitions of doing this thing, it still wasn't for me, then cool, I could quit and move on to something else. But I had to give it at least 100 reps. As I went along with my 100 reps, I would get to a point where my skills were lacking and I would get really frustrated because I couldn't figure out how to do this thing. But as I kept pushing on, I would make a discovery. And in those discoveries, I got super excited because I learned something new. This is what I call the aha moments. And it was a really good feeling to come up with, to figure out the discovery, almost at the point I was laughing because I had learned something new. I've gotten through a breakthrough point on that thing that I was trying to learn. And so I applied that. In the Dunning-Kruger effect, this is what's called the slope of enlightenment. This is where you transfer your information skills from your cognitive stage of thinking, or your working brain, to your autonomous stage of thinking, where it's now just second nature, because you've done that over and over. It's more comfortable when you're doing it. As I worked through my 100 repetitions, I'd see the improvements in my practices. I went from the beginning stages of my work and improved and progressed as I went along. There's a story in the book Art and Fear by David Biles and Ted Orland, where a ceramics teacher divided a class up into two groups. One group was graded on the quantity of pots that they made, while the other group was graded on the quality of just one pot. At the end of the term, the group that focused on the quality of pots made a higher quality pot than the group that focused on making just one perfect pot. The lesson here was that practice and iteration doing something repeatedly leads to improvement, rather than aiming for perfection in a single effort. This is a great metaphor for creativity, learning, and personal growth. When I was in the Navy, I was a company chief at the Navy's Officer Candidate School in Newport, Rhode Island. My job there was to lead and teach college graduates and professionals how to be naval officers. Oftentimes they would say to me, "Hey, Chief, you should make a podcast or a blog or a YouTube video teaching everyone else the things that you teach us." Thought, it's not the worst idea I've heard. Fast forward to today, I currently teach citizenship development and leadership to high school students. Part of my lessons are on them overcoming their fear of failure by putting in the repetitions, looking where the improvements need to be made, applying those improvements, and going at it again and keep going at it over and over until they make those improvements, until they get the outcome that they're looking for. My students learn to plan and execute events as a team. We do what's called a POA&M, or a plan of action and milestones. This gives them a framework to go by. Once the evolution is done, we do an after-action report. This gives them an opportunity to see what went well, what didn't go well, and where they can make improvements. It's always fun to see my students get better at the planning stages, as they learn what things need to be planned for from past experiences. Whatever skill you're trying to learn, as you go along your journey of 100 reps, take time to analyze your progress after each repetition. What did you do well? What needs improving? And be intentional about your repetitions. Each time, focus on a particular area that needs improving. I used to be part of Toastmasters, where I was learning to be a better public speaker. Each time I would do a speech, I would pick something to focus on for that next speech. For instance, one speech I would focus on my stage presence. One would be voice inflection. The next time I would work on eye contact with my audience. And the next one I would work on my distracting mannerisms like and so and but. As I went along, I would listen to the feedback from my clubmates and to see where I can improve. And I would apply those improvements to my next speeches. Before I knew it, I was giving confident and impactful speeches in front of large crowds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this lesson one step farther with this YouTube channel. I'm using this video as an example to my students in my class. This is my first video on this YouTube channel. And what I'm going to do is a 100 video challenge. I'm showing my students that this is something that can be done. And if you stick with this and you progress at least 100 repetitions, you're going to see the progress throughout from beginning to end. So my challenge is to record one video per week for the next 100 weeks and watch the progression from video 1 all the way to video 100. So there'll be 99 more of these, and you can go along with me on this journey to show improvement. This is something completely new for me, so I'm excited to see how this is going to go. This journey of 100 videos is my opportunity to document and record my progress and show all of you that, yes, even you can do it. Look, I'm nobody special. I wasn't born with any innate skills, talents, or anything like that. I'm just an average guy with an average job. I have average skills. I'm average just like you. Matter of fact, nothing has really ever come easy for me. I graduated high school after 5 years with a 1.92 GPA. So I wasn't exactly the smartest guy either. My knowledge is pretty average. But what I do have is the drive and determination to do, have, and be something better than average. And I would say that's probably even average as well. But if you have the drive and passion to learn something or do something better, stick with me. Put in the reps on your own project. I've taught these same lessons in classrooms, and now I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and show you that even you can do that thing that you want to do if you just stick with it and put in 100 reps. One example I use with my students is the Iron Man movies. In the beginning, Tony Stark built a rudimentary Iron Man suit out of leftover scraps that he found in his captor's cave. When he came out of that cave, he looked like a walking trash can. But from movie after movie after movie, Tony Stark kept making improvement after improvement after improvement on his Iron Man suits. And every iteration of his Iron Man suit got better and better until the very final one, he could do all kinds of crazy things with this suit. So what I'm going to do, my intent with this YouTube channel is take you along with me on my journey of progression to get better and better and better. I'll have frequent updates on my progress. I'll share my results so that you can see that anything's possible if you push past your doubts and learn from your mistakes. If my journey gives you any inspiration and you learn a few things along the way, give me a thumbs up and be sure to smash that like and subscribe button down below. That way you don't miss any of the exciting videos. This channel is going to be about self-improvement, success, and productivity. If there's anything you'd like to see, or if you have any questions or suggestions, be sure to leave a comment down below. I look forward to reading your feedback and answering any of your questions. For now, stay motivated. And if there's something you've been thinking about trying to do, want to learn, go for it. Give it a good shot. You never know, you might surprise yourself. Good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.